At 0517 local time, a low steel vibration runs through the deck as power shifts across the ship. On the bridge, nobody needs to speak loudly. They never do. New surface contacts appear on bearing 243. The radar screen brightens. One return becomes 3, then 5. Clean tracks, tight spacing, closing quickly. Out at sea, everything looks calm. Flat blue water, a distant, unbroken horizon. But the instruments tell a different story. Speeds rise, bearings stabilize. The closest point of approach tightens minute by minute. The mood of the watch changes at once, subtle but unmistakable, like a body bracing before impact. Maintain course and speed. The order comes evenly. It is entered into the log with the time. Every station acknowledges. Below, in the Combat Information Center, the watch team leans closer. Sensors move from broad surveillance to precise tracking. No dramatic alerts, no unnecessary movement. Just a steady stream of clean data. A moment ago, the 5 contacts were lined up side by side. Now they begin to spread into a shallow arc. Geometry matters here. It always does. Contact group maneuvering. On the bridge, the captain studies the plot in silence. A small nod, another note in the log. The ship holds her pace. Behind the stern, the wake remains straight and narrow. Up on the flight deck, routine slows. Yellow shirts stop mid-step and look up, waiting for the next instruction, whether it comes or not. Aircraft stay chained, folded, silent, prepared without drawing attention. Range continues to fall. CPA moves inside 5. No one shows it outwardly. The crew has practiced this tempo countless times. Watch, confirm, record. The line between presence and provocation can be measured in seconds and degrees. A radio call goes out, professional and stripped of extras. No answer. The contacts close another mile. One shifts slightly to starboard, cutting the angle. Another stays directly ahead, speed unchanged. The other 3 drift wider, opening space where none should exist. It is intentional. It is coordinated. Set conditions. The phrase is brief, and everyone understands it instantly. Stations are manned. Cameras go live. Every movement is captured from more than one angle. Every change in bearing is preserved in the record. This is not escalation. This is readiness. Below decks, the ship feels different. Not louder, more precise. Even the hum of the machinery seems sharper, as if it knows it is being monitored. Sailors move efficiently, nothing wasted, no rushing, because there is no uncertainty. Contact 2 accelerating, Contact 4 altering course. The plot tightens again. 5 hulls now form a loose ring. Each keeps a safe margin. None crosses the line. Not yet. The water between them feels smaller, not because of distance, but because the choices are shrinking. Another radio call goes out, shorter this time. Still no reply. On the bridge wing, binoculars rise. Gray shapes along the horizon sharpen into hard steel outlines. The first details called out are not national markings. They are hull forms, deck layouts, silhouettes matched against stored signatures. Confirmation comes last, not first. Surface group identified. The weight of those words lingers for half a second, and then the watch moves on. No commentary, no visible reaction. Identification changes nothing about the process. Intent is still the unknown. One of the ships angles closer, now near enough to make out the deck crew. No aggressive posture, no obvious sign of immediate danger, just speed and position. Enough to send a message without making the wrong move. CPA drops below 3. At last, the captain speaks. Calm voice. Log all maneuvers. Maintain. The carrier obeys exactly. She does not drift. She does not turn away. She does not press forward. She stays on the line she entered with, relying on mass, discipline, and precision. The minutes begin to feel compressed. The contacts remain right on the edge of what is acceptable, applying pressure without making contact. The air is thick with unspoken questions, but nobody gives them voice. That is not how this moment works. Range steady. Those words carry more weight than any alarm. Steady means choice. It means the people on the other side are watching just as carefully, calculating just as precisely. Across the water, 5 wakes cut white lines into the blue, converging on a ship that refuses to flinch. No dramatic signals, no panic, no extra warning beyond what has already been transmitted. Just speed, just intent. And everyone on board understands that the next few minutes will determine whether this remains an entry in the log or becomes something far more serious. At 0521 local time, the geometry shifts again. The 5 contacts no longer move as one shape. They separate with purpose, each hull sliding into a position that quietly reduces the carrier's room to respond. One remains steady off the port bow. Another moves wider to starboard. 2 drift aft, matching speed. The 5th stays farther out, just distant enough to observe it all. Surface group adjusting formation. That note goes into the log once, without emphasis. No one treats this like panic because it isn't. It is pressure applied with precision. The distances remain lawful. The bearings remain clean. Every maneuver stays just inside the boundary, where intent can be denied afterward. That is what makes it dangerous. Nothing crosses the line on paper. Everything is calculated in practice. On the bridge, the captain keeps his eyes on the plot. The ship stays on her original track, wake unbroken behind her. A carrier does not flinch at shadows. She holds steady and makes everyone else decide how far they are truly prepared to go. Another radio call is sent, matching the first in tone. Brief, professional, almost ordinary if you didn't know better. No response comes back. Below in CIC, the watch team follows every small change. One contact adds 2 knots, then settles again. Another adjusts heading by 5 degrees, just enough to test for a reaction. The stream of data fills with numbers that mean little alone and everything together. Contact 3 matching course. That changes the feel of the moment. Matching course means commitment. It means the gap will not open unless someone chooses to create it. On the flight deck, the stillness deepens. Chains remain locked. Control surfaces stay folded. There is no outward sign of alarm, but the rhythm has changed. Everyone knows exactly where they need to be if the order comes. Until then, they wait. Even the sea feels different now. Tighter, more crowded by steel. Wakes overlap. The horizon seems smaller, cut into sections by converging lines of motion. From above, it would look less like aggression and more like a diagram drawn with deliberate care. CPA holding at 2.8. Holding is no accident. It means someone else is shaping this moment too. One of the ships edges inward, crossing the carrier's projected path at a safe distance before leveling out again. Close enough for hull numbers to be read through optics, far enough to avoid any claim of interference. A message delivered without saying a word. Visual confirmed. No weapon posture. The absence matters as much as any visible presence. That gets noted too. The captain gives a small hand signal. Another line goes into the log. Cameras keep rolling. Nothing is missed. Nothing is overstated. This is the stage where errors usually begin. Too much speed. Too sharp a correction. One misunderstood signal. The bridge remains quiet because quiet prevents those mistakes. Everyone aboard knows the rules without needing to say them aloud. Another contact drifts aft, settling near the carrier's quarter. It is not blocking. It is accompanying, a shadow that refuses to fall behind. Surface group now encircling, loose formation. Loose but effective. Each ship occupies a piece of water that forces another calculation. The carrier could turn, but that would surrender initiative. She could accelerate, but that would rewrite the moment. So she holds, speed constant, course steady. Time stretches. The radio breaks once with static, then goes silent again. Whether that silence is intentional or not hardly matters. The effect is exactly the same. At 0527, one of the outer ships slows slightly, dropping back just enough to keep the spacing clean. The others adjust immediately. The ring tightens without ever appearing to tighten. This is not improvised. It has been practiced long before today. Formation stable. That may be the heaviest phrase spoken so far. On deck, the breeze carries fuel and salt through the air. Sailors glance toward the waterline, then back to their work. Nobody stares for long. Staring feeds tension. Tension feeds mistakes. Then another subtle shift. A slight course change from the lead contact, mirrored seconds later by a second hull. The carrier remains centered, the one constant inside a moving equation. CPA unchanged. At last, the captain speaks, barely above conversational volume. We maintain. It is not theater. It is not bravado. It is procedure. The carrier's weight, her straight wake, her refusal to answer pressure with visible reaction, all of it is as intentional as the ships around her. It turns the net into a question instead of a conclusion. The 5 ships keep their positions, close enough to be felt, distant enough to remain technically clean. No horns, no lights, no sudden movement, just 5 wakes bending subtly inward, and a carrier continuing straight through the center, forcing everyone involved to decide what the next move is really worth. 0531 local time. This is the point where it starts to become truly dangerous. The distance stops closing, but it does not widen either. 5 ships hold their positions with exacting control, near enough to influence the carrier's movement without ever making contact. The water between them becomes shared ground, measured, monitored, contested without ever being openly claimed. Surface group maintaining positions. Maintaining is its own message. It means this is deliberate. It means nobody out there is making it up as they go. Inside Combat Information Center, the watch changes posture once more. Sensors that had been satisfied with observation now begin tracking with greater intent. Tracks become firmer, bearings refresh faster. Nothing crosses the line, but everything edges closer to it. Recommend continuous recording. Already done. The carrier remains steady, speed unchanged, course unchanged. Her wake stays a straight white seam through blue water that now feels crowded with purpose. There is no visible display meant for an audience, no gesture arranged for cameras. The message is carried in consistency. Off starboard, one of the ships inches closer, a fraction of a mile at a time. Subtle enough to deny later, clear enough to register now. CPA now 2.5. Still safe, only just. The bridge stays quiet. The captain's hands rest on the chart table, his gaze moving between the horizon and the plot. He does not need commentary, he needs precision. Another radio hail is sent. Routine phrasing, neutral delivery, the same kind of transmission used 100 times a week in calmer seas. No reply. At this distance, silence is not emptiness. It is a decision. At 0534, one of the aft contacts adds speed for a moment, then settles back into match. It is a probe, a test of timing. How quickly does the carrier react? The answer comes at once, and it cannot be seen. She holds. The carrier does not pursue shadows. She does not flinch. Her answer is the absence of one. On the flight deck, the choreography tightens again. Crews shift position without urgency. Nothing obvious breaks the surface. Through optics, anyone watching would see calm, not readiness. But readiness is exactly what is taking shape. The 5 ships now form a loose crescent, each holding spacing that keeps the carrier centered. The geometry is unmistakable, a textbook pressure posture, carried out with discipline. Encirclement geometry holding. Holding is the danger. Holding creates time, and time is where mistakes begin. Even the sea seems to reflect it. Overlapping wakes leave broken patterns behind each hull, lines crossing and fading as though the water itself cannot decide which way to move. Above all of it, the carrier's island stands motionless, a fixed point inside a shifting field. Then another adjustment, this time from port. A ship cuts slightly inward, crosses the projected track at a respectful distance, then settles back out. No collision risk, no violation, just proximity used as emphasis. Closest approach logged. Every move is marked, every bearing time-stamped, every shift archived. This is not about winning the moment. It is about owning the record if the moment changes shape. Inside CIC, the tone remains level. Numbers are called, confirmed, called again. No one speculates. There is no room for that here. Surface group maintaining ambiguous posture. That word matters. Ambiguous is exactly the space they occupy. Too close to dismiss, too clean to challenge outright. At 0537, the outermost ship changes heading by a few degrees, opening water that was not there a moment earlier. For the first time, the ring seems to breathe. Only slightly, but enough to be seen. Contact 5 drifting. Withdrawal or repositioning. The data does not answer yet. The carrier continues on, unchanged. Her steadiness forces clarity onto everyone else. Any move toward escalation now would be unmistakable. Any retreat would be just as visible. The minutes pass. The pressure does not spike. It settles into something heavier than tension, expectation. On deck, a sailor glances toward the horizon, then returns to his station. No one says a word. Speech would break the rhythm, and the rhythm matters. Then another subtle shift. The ship off starboard eases back by half a knot. The aft contact mirrors it seconds later. The formation loosens, but it does not come apart. Speed reduction observed. It goes into the log without interpretation. The ambiguity remains, but it is thinning now. Somewhere, someone is recalculating. The carrier moves on, constant amid changing intent. She does not press forward. She does not give way. She simply remains in the space in front of her, forcing the moment to reveal what it wants to become. No alarms, no raised voices, no weapons brought to bear. Just 5 ships, 1 carrier, and a stretch of water where the next decision from any side will define what this day becomes. 5:40 local time. The pressure does not break. It changes shape. On the plot, the carrier is still the constant. 5 surface contacts still hold their lanes, still close enough to matter. But something subtle begins to shift. Not in distance, not in speed, but in relationship. Surface group reacting. What they're reacting to isn't obvious yet. Inside CIC, the watch team catches it first. The carrier's data picture begins to tighten, not outward, but inward. Feeds line up, timelines lock together. The ship isn't adding friction to the situation. It's stripping uncertainty out of it. Carrier maintaining track, secondary systems synchronized. No further announcement follows, none is necessary. On the flight deck, movement starts again. Not abruptly, not in any way that looks dramatic, but with clear intent. Crews shift positions with purpose. Doors open, then close. Ladders clear. Nothing suggests escalation. Everything points to readiness. The 5 ships adjust once more, this time compensating for something they had not expected to compensate for. One holds position a little longer than planned. Another is late by a few seconds on a correction. Small details, enough to matter. Contact late on maneuver. Late means hesitation. The carrier does not turn into the pressure. She does not try to power through it either. Instead, her steadiness becomes the move. By refusing to change course, she forces every other ship to reveal its intentions more clearly. The outermost contact increases speed for a moment, then eases back again. The maneuver does not threaten. It does not withdraw. It searches for a response that never comes. Carrier unchanged. Now that phrase carries more weight than before. From the bridge wings, optics stay fixed on the nearest hull. Sailors can be seen topside, moving, but not preparing for anything dramatic. No one runs. No one moves to weapon stations. The lack of visible tension becomes a message of its own. The formation begins to loosen, not because anyone ordered it, but because it has to. To keep applying the same pressure, the ships would need steeper angles and tighter spacing. That would take the situation somewhere no one seems willing to go. Surface group spacing increasing. The ring is not gone, but it is no longer tightening. At 0544, the contact that had been holding aft drops back another half mile. It stays on a parallel course and keeps matching speed, but the shadow grows longer. It is the first clear concession of space. Contact 4 opening range. No commentary follows. The carrier keeps moving ahead, wake straight and unbroken. This is the part they did not anticipate. Not a push, not a challenge. A refusal to play along with the shape built around her. She does not accept the geometry being offered. She breaks it simply by remaining outside its logic. Another shift follows, this time from port. A ship angles outward, easing the pressure without openly signaling departure. It is done carefully. It preserves appearances. It also changes the entire picture. Encirclement degrading. Degrading does not mean over. It means the formation can no longer sustain itself. Minutes earlier, the 5 ships controlled the space through proximity. Now proximity starts working against them. Tightening further risks escalation. Holding where they are risks paralysis. Opening the gap begins to look like backing off. The carrier changes nothing. On the bridge, the captain finally adjusts his stance. Not out of reaction, but recognition. The situation has entered a different phase. Not resolved, rebalanced. At 0547, radio traffic breaks the silence. Not a direct call, not a warning, just a short burst passed between the surface contacts themselves. The words cannot be made out, the timing can. They are coordinating. That goes into the record too. The formation spreads wider. No longer a ring, now a loose arc. Enough room appears to restore freedom of movement without forcing anyone to admit they are stepping away. It becomes a compromise written in wake lines and open water. CPA increasing. It is the first time those words have been spoken in nearly half an hour. The carrier remains on course, steady and unhurried. She does not press the advantage. She does not pursue the opening. She simply allows the space to exist. One by one, the ships settle into parallel tracks. Still nearby, still observing, but no longer shaping the encounter. The pressure fades, not all at once, but gradually, like tension leaving a wire. No signals are exchanged, no visible gestures follow. The sea begins to widen again. The unexpected move was never a maneuver. It was never a show of force. It was discipline. By refusing to alter, the carrier forced every other decision into the open. And once clarity became unavoidable, restraint proved less costly than risk. Now the wakes of all 6 ships stretch behind them in long, separate lines. No longer converging, no longer layered over each other, just tracks across open water, slowly drifting apart. And with that separation comes the quiet realization that the encounter has reached its natural limit, without anyone ever having to say so. By 0552 local time, the ocean starts to feel wide again. On the plot, the 5 surface contacts no longer form a single pattern. Each ship now occupies its own lane, its own spacing, its own piece of water. Still close enough to monitor, no longer close enough to control. Surface group dispersing. Dispersing is not the same as retreat. It is a way of ending the encounter without anyone having to admit they stepped back. The carrier stays on her original heading, speed unchanged. There is no turn to mark the finish, no visible signal that the moment has passed at all. That is deliberate. A carrier does not celebrate getting through a standoff. She logs it, holds her line, and keeps moving. On the bridge, the rhythm of the watch returns to normal. Bearings refresh less often. Ranges begin opening by fractions of a mile. The tension that had filled the air moments earlier does not disappear. It settles into something quieter, heavier, harder to shake. CPA increasing across all contacts. This time, the words carry a sense of closure. Below deck, systems ease back toward baseline without ceremony. Recording continues. Logs are reviewed, cross-checked, time-stamped. Every maneuver, every pause, every slight heading change is preserved. The real outcome of this encounter will live in those records, not in anything visible on the surface. On the flight deck, chains remain secured. Aircraft stay folded. No launch was needed to make the point. That matters too. The 5 ships keep their distance now, holding parallel tracks for a time, as if making certain the moment is truly over. Then, one by one, they begin to drift astern, their wakes stretching longer and thinner behind them. Contact 1 reducing speed, then another. The carrier does not answer. She does not adjust to match them. She does not linger on their departure. Her obligation is forward. By 0600, the formation that had once narrowed around her exists only as separated tracks on a screen, spreading farther apart with every update. The water between them becomes open again, no longer a shared equation, no longer contested by position alone. The encounter ends the same way it began, without a single dramatic act to define it. No flares, no shouted warnings, no weapons brought to bear, only disciplined movement and disciplined restraint. Inside CIC, the watch officer signs off on the final entry. From first contact to final separation, every minute has been accounted for. No extra commentary is added, none is needed. The facts speak clearly enough. On the bridge, the captain gives the plot one last look, then offers the slightest nod. The ship continues ahead. This is what resolution looks like at sea, not victory announced, not defeat accepted, just space restored and decisions postponed. For a while longer, the 5 ships remain visible along the horizon, their silhouettes shrinking into the morning light. Eventually, even those shapes fade, leaving only the carrier's wake, straight and unbroken, pointing ahead. For the crew, the meaning of the moment is not measured by how close it came to violence, but by how deliberately it stayed short of it. The discipline to hold course, the patience to let uncertainty unravel on its own, the understanding that control does not always need to be loud to be unmistakable. Long after the ships are gone, the data will remain, angles will be studied, timing will be compared, lessons will be pulled from the record without emotion, because that is where encounters like this truly end. Out on the water, nobody asks who won. The harder question is the one that remains. In a standoff with no shots fired, no voices raised, and no course changed, who truly controlled the moment?